Welcome everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us for the second webinar in our four-part Managed Services Journey webinar series. This one is entitled, this wasn't entitled Signing a Managed Services Agreement, What You Need to Know. I want to welcome you to the webinar today, and I think you're going to get a lot out of the content that we've prepared for you. First, though, I just want to take a few minutes to introduce who's on the line with you today. And Dave, if you could advance that slide, perfect. My name's Stephanie Baskerville, and I'm going to be your webinar host, and I'm ProServeIT's content writer. And joining me today is Dave Mulligan, our amazing Managed Services Manager here at ProServeIT, and he's my webinar co-host today as well. So before we get started with the content, I'd just like to point out to you that in the GoToWebinar platform, you're going to see a questions tab. Please, if at any point during the webinar you have a question, you can feel free to type it into that questions tab window, and I'll be happy to sort of read out those questions as they come in. We do want to make this experience for you today as organic as possible and ensure that you're getting the most out of your time with us today. So, please don't be shy and use that questions tab as often as you need to, and Dave and I will be happy to answer those questions as they come in. So from an agenda perspective today, Dave, if you could advance the slide for me, perfect. So today we're going to look at a little bit of an introduction into who's speaking to you today. Dave's going to give a bit of a background on himself. We're also going to go into sort of the meat and potatoes, I'll say, of the topic for today, which is what to look for when choosing the right managed services provider. And, we're going to sort of talk about some key questions that you want to be asking, things that you want to be thinking about when you're doing that. And then, of course, how to know that you're making the right choice too. So we're going to get into a couple demos of the tools that we would recommend people use or be looking for when they're choosing a managed services provider. We're going to show you some of those, and we're going to give you a bit of a look under the hood about how we do at ProServeIT, how we do what we do, and then get into some next steps and some questions and answer period. This is like a more formal Q&A. Again, though, if you do have questions, we will be answering them through the webinar. Throughout the webinar, through that questions tab there. So let's just start off with a short introduction into who we are. Don't want to take too much time here. Dave, if you could advance the slide for me, please. Perfect, thank you. So ProServeIT is a Microsoft Gold partner with a comprehensive focus on cloud transformation, managed services, software development, IT service desk, and technology consulting. We do have three main differentiators that we like to focus on. First and foremost, we are in the business of eliminating IT debt. And what we mean by that is that we want to make sure that you have the technology you need when you need it, and once you've purchased it, you're getting that maximum ROI on your investment. Second, we do put a security lens on everything that we do. So we want to help you manage your advanced cybersecurity risks and secure your identity, data, and devices. And of course, we also implement this internally as well. So when you're a customer of ours, we're keeping your data safe too. And last, we are your full stack technology partner. So we're going to be with you from start to finish, helping you along every aspect of that digital transformation journey to the cloud. If you could advance the slide for me, Dave. On this next slide here, you're going to see a few of our service offerings. Oops, sorry, those were backwards actually. So on the previous slide, a few of our service offerings and technology that we work with. Again, cloud transformation, we are professional services. We do software development, infrastructure, change management, managed services, and IT roadmaps, which help you understand how to leverage IT as a critical business advantage and close that gap between your business needs and your IT capabilities. So maybe advance 2 slides here. So that's a little bit about ProServeIT, and that's going to do it from me from an About Us perspective. Now we're going to dive right into those meat and potatoes of our topic today. Quick reminder again, if you have questions as we're going through the content, please utilize that questions tab, and Dave and I will make sure that your questions are answered. All right, so I'm going to pass that mic, so to speak, over to Dave now. Dave, take it away.
Awesome, thanks for that, Stephanie. So as the slide says, my name is David Mulligan. I'm the manager of the Managed Services Department over here at ProServeIT. Just a little bit about my background. So overall, I've been working in the IT industry for a little over 11 years. I spent my first 6 years working in technical roles. I actually originally started my IT career as a junior service desk technician right here at ProServeIT. From there, I continued to build and develop on my technical skills, eventually worked my way into some senior infrastructure roles at a couple of different SaaS companies around the GTA. And then I've spent the last 5 years of my career working in a couple of different IT leadership roles for some organizations. And I've been back here at the team at ProServeIT, working the managed services team for almost the past 3 years. So we're getting close to the 3-year mark there. I am a Microsoft ICT MCITP certified administrator. So, I did make sure that I got some of those Microsoft certifications to just kind of validate my skills and interest in the Microsoft stack. And I think really just my career and why I'm working and doing what I'm doing is simply because I love technology. I consider myself, it's not just my job, it's also my hobby. When I'm at home, I still find myself, working on my own server infrastructure and slowly working to build my house into a smart house. So it's just a little bit about me. So what to look for when you're choosing the right MSP? A lot of answers to this, I think at a high level for folks are, you do want to look at rates that they're charging and service offerings. It's actually the other topics and other things that I wanted to talk with everyone about today that I feel are actually a bit more nuanced, but in a way the most important things that you should be looking into and asking questions about to really see if that's going to be the right MSP fit for your business. So one of the biggest ones, and the reason why I put it on the top, is you really want to start to investigate and look in and understand the core values of that MSP. How they operate as a company and what they value the most. For ProServeIT, our core values are people matter, do the right thing, and be like Gumby. That last one is, I think a little bit more of a nod to folks in an older generation. For the younger folks on the call, Gumby was this character from sort of 60s, 70s cartoons and media and TV and comic books, and his superpower was to stretch. He could infinitely stretch his arms and his body and his legs, and that's Gumby was made of rubber, so he was really flexible and he could really bend and stretch. So for us, that speaks to the need for an IT company to be willing to stretch and bend. We know in the MSP space and working with businesses that you can't be rigid. If you're rigid, in all likelihood, you're not going to fit and be able to provide the support that company needs. So, we understand the importance of that, but you want to be able to stretch and not break, just like Gumby. So, I think that's a really important one. The other ones, do the right thing. That's something that everybody at ProServeIT is absolutely attached to. We firmly are a team of, believing in doing the right thing. So yeah. And the other thing that's important is when we think about it is, do they know my business? When I say, do they know my business, you often want to find an MSP that is familiar with working with other companies in your space. Not that that's the only way to see success, but rather, folks in your space of business or, companies that are very similar in maybe size and complexity. Often they have the same IT requirements. There can be some cross-pollination with applications and knowledge of those applications, ERP systems, things like that. But it's really going to help that MSP understand and get to know you better and start to rapidly build that partnership if they're already familiar with working with businesses in your space. How their team is structured, that one speaks more to what that experience like and how you get supported. I can say with our managed services team at ProServeIT, managed services is ultimately built of 3 different sub-teams. So we have our on-site staff. They're kind of the all-in-one team in the sense that they're highly generalized at IT. They both provide user support, infrastructure support, as well as help with projects and deployments on-site. And their role within agreements sometimes is just to fulfill that on-site requirement. If we need someone to go on-site and perhaps put hands on a device or help with the deployment, that's the team that we look to. And some of our clients, they really are just looking for just that on-site IT person, maybe a few times a month, and that's really all that they're looking for. So we have that team to help facilitate that, be able to support them end to end. The next team that we have in managed services is our service desk. Service desk is very much like other conventionally built service desks that you find, out in the enterprise or other industries. the sense that it's comprised of systems administrators at, kind of the level 1 and level 2 range in terms of skill set. They're helping to support people, primarily end users, as they're submitting tickets to our ticket queue or calling into our phone queue. That's the team that's picking up those tickets and assisting that user base. Their jobs are 95% remote. Again, there is times where, perhaps someone on the service desk is fairly specialized in an environment. They have to go on site, but again, 95% of their job role is in that remote capacity. The next team in managed services is our IT operations team. Within that team is our level 3 support. So when an issue is really, really complex and it traverses and goes through level 1, level 2, that's where it hit level 3. The IT operations team is responsible for the monitoring, managing, alerting for all of the infrastructure pieces, network pieces. They also handle all of the scripting and automation and a large deal of the proactive measures that we take. That's also the team where we have another office overnight, is our IT operations team. One of their offices is actually located in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. And that is, again, because that's how we help facilitate and manage that 24/7 alerting and monitoring that's included with our infrastructure monitoring packages. The next thing that I would always ask an MSP about, or a company that I was looking to work with, is how is success measured for that organization? If a company can't articulate and talk to you about how they measure success, then how do they know when they're being successful? How can they come and have a conversation with you and say, we feel we're successful at supporting your team and your business, and this is why and what we base it off of? Because without that conversation, it can be, a little bit of a rudderless ship when you try and engage and maybe things aren't working out well, or perhaps you just want to see things improve because you're happy with most of it, but there's this one thing that you want to see, improved upon with it. So really important to find that and understand that success measurement within an organization. It also speaks to how I would say, refined they are as an operation. If a company or an MSP isn't at a level of refinement where they're actually at a point where they can measure their success and talk about that, it might give you an idea or an indicator of, is this company not yet at a state of refinement where, they're going to be a good fit for my business. The other thing is, how do they do the stuff so I can do my thing? For me, that speaks to tooling. There can certainly be other process-based questions. How do you handle change management, user onboardings, and all those other pieces that exist outside of tooling? But they're all part of that stuff. It's the stuff that they need to fix. When I say stuff, I mean IT. IT is a larger, broader term, and it's like, do my thing. Your thing is whatever your business is doing. Maybe you're selling cat memes on the internet. I don't know, but that's your thing. And how do we ensure that you can always do that? And the final one, and this has become a much more critical question and something to dig into when you're looking to choose the right MSP, is that stuff secure? Is the tooling, the agents, the way in which this business is going to be operating and interacting with your IT, is it all secure, and does it go through that security first lens? Because in today's world, we're seeing it more and more prevalent in the news, where there's all of these big security events, companies getting hacked, crypto lockered, email phished online. There's so many different threats coming from so many different parts of the world, even locally, that it's something that you really, really want to make sure that IT company is thinking about as kind of their first posture, is what we're doing safe? Because the reality is, in modern business, IT is your business. That gets breached and that gets compromised, they now have the keys to your entire business, which can be a very, very scary thing to think about. So how do you know you're making the right choice? You've asked all these questions, you've collected a lot of data. How do you start to aggregate that data and help it get to you to making that decision? And is that decision actually the right one for you? So when you're looking into that idea of, how do they do the stuff so you can do your thing? That should start with, are they using top tier tooling sourced from industry leaders? When I say top tier tooling, if you were able to wind the clock back, 10, 15 years, there was a very, very small subset of tooling that pretty much every MSP used because it was all that was available. In our line of work, we need solutions that are multi-tenant. We need solutions that do follow best security practices. So 15 years ago, it was super easy. Now that's a very, very crowded market. It's like anything in the digital world. There's so many different players, new companies popping up, new tooling, new technologies, that it can start to become complicated. So you do want to dig in and start to ask questions about the tooling that this MSP is using, and look to do a little bit of independent research on that. How long has that company been around for? What is their user base looking like? Do you feel confident that if that tool breaks or something's gone wrong, maybe an update to that tool has now caused a problem, that it's going to be resolved in a timely manner? These are the sort of things that you want to think about when you're thinking about that top tier tooling, and it's important that you're looking for a company that prescribes to that and believes in that. They themselves are not buying the cheapest tool to put in the toolbox. They're actually buying the best tool that's going to be the best equipped to do the job. You also want to look for an MSP that wants to be a partner and not a vendor. Talking to them about their goals, the structure of their team, how they measure success. These are going to be the questions that give you the answers to help you understand that. Because if an MSP views themselves or behaves as a vendor, it's going to be a very cold, layer of removed relationship that you have with that business. It's going to be the same way as when you buy a fridge from General Electric. General Electric's the vendor of that fridge. There's not a lot of an engagement there. They're not directly talking to you to see, well, do you like how you control the temperature of the fridge? Do you like how everything's located in it? Because it's not a partnership. You bought something from them. They provided it to you. But when I think about a partnership and even how we operate and how we look at our clients, is that we're here to be your partner, and we're here to integrate and be a part of your business. We are your IT team. So because of that, we want to be just as involved and just as interested in the success of your business as you are. That's a true partnership, because that's how we build long-lasting relationships and partnerships, and that's what we really, really want. A vendor's looking for that quick one-off sale. A partner's looking for something deep and meaningful that's going to last for a lot of years. You also want to check, and again, that idea, well, how can you know if they have proven success or have dealt with other companies in your industry? It never hurts to ask them, well, can you give me some references from companies in your industry? And you can have a quick chit chat with them. Not only do we do that at ProServe, but we're also very proud of the work that we do for all of our clients. And if you actually go to our web link here on our website at www.ProServeIT.com, check the About section, go to our work, you're going to see a big volume of all of our case studies. We're proud of these partnerships or relationships, and we know that our clients are incredibly happy with us, to the point that most of them are more than eager to write a case study and participate in that and allow us to put that feedback out there for everybody to see. And just by going there and looking at our case studies, you can see the wide variety of all of the different clients that we work with, because we do try and tap into many industries as possible. When I think about measuring success, and any advice that I would give to anybody on how do you know you're making the right choice, and what that means when you talk about measuring success and what is the best way, is I think there's a couple of different ways that you can measure success, or that companies would. One way would be to have it in a very, very data-driven, metrics focused, open close rates, SLA timing, how quick did you close that ticket? For me, when I would look at that, I don't think that paints a complete picture of a satisfied, relationship and building that partnership within an organization, because it can lead to bad habits. Some, folks then think, success in their job becomes, well, how fast am I closing a ticket? Might not be 100% resolved, but if I can close it, today, rather than putting in those few extra phone calls and touch points, that's better for my metrics. So they close it sooner than it necessarily should be. At that point, it starts to drive behaviors in the direction where you see folks that are very focused on, just achieving numbers. What I think anybody should be looking at is a balance of both, because that's not to say that SLAs and, ticket closure rates and timeliness of response and stuff aren't important, but it should absolutely be a 50-50 balance with customer feedback. How do your users actually feel about the service that they're getting? Did they have a good positive interaction? Even if it's a frustrating moment where their IT has failed them, they're not able to meet their deadline, maybe they're concerned of what this means for them at their job role, that person's in a very stressful spot. So if you don't have a very customer service focused driven action and interaction, I should say, with that user from your IT team, even if the issue gets resolved, the customer feedback still may be negative. You know, that user's still not feeling great about what happened with IT. It could lead to problems down the road. Certainly you as an IT stakeholder, it's going to make your life harder because, you know, you're going to have a greater number of people coming to your desk to let you know how they weren't happy with IT. So customer feedback for us, it is a 50-50 balance, but I would almost call it 51-49. For us, the 51% is that customer feedback. It is more important to us, being a customer service driven organization. And we still want to see environment health driven metrics, SLA metrics. The metrics are still important. They're still relevant and we do track those, but we certainly place our most important on that customer feedback. You also want to make sure that you're going to be able to get the support you need when you need it. So learning about hours of operations can be critical, and we've seen it where businesses have come to us. Maybe they were overall happy with their IT service provider, but their IT service provider really only operated in a narrow band of time. They weren't always available. Perhaps their service desk was only operating from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. The ProServeIT service desk, our standard hours of operations are 8 to 8. Because we recognize that, a lot of people do end up working late. A lot of people like to start early at 8 o'clock, especially in the GTA with the traffic that we see here. So that's our standard. And then we also offer 24/7, 365, not just on the monitoring alerting. Again, that 24/7 support comes with our infrastructure monitoring alerting, but rather that's also at the service desk. That is an offering that we have because as the world's changing, we're seeing a lot of businesses and industry in North America. They themselves have to expand their hours of operation, either because their business is blowing up and they're seeing a lot of success, or they have to start working longer and harder to give them that competitive edge over their competitors. So you don't want to see any gaps where you don't have that IT support, because that again too would start to diminish the value that you're getting out of your MSP relationship. You also want to make sure that your environment is protected from both ends. So again, I did say in terms of security, looking at the tooling that's involved in that MSP is using, but you also want to make sure that that is strong. It's the data in transit as well as at rest. You want to make sure that data is secured via encryption, the channel that it's traversing over, that it's a heavily encrypted channel so no one can kind of camp in the middle and watch that data. You also want to make sure that things like passwords, network diagrams, all of the documentation, everything about your environment is locked away in a securely encrypted place, not just kind of saved on Word files or Excel spreadsheets, maybe in like a SharePoint portal or something like that, where it's sitting there at rest and it's not encrypted at all either. Again, these ideas of security are incredibly important because that's often how attacks begin. If you can breach and get that tactical information about someone's network or the layout of their environment, heavens forbid, breach some passwords and make it really, really easy. And it's like leaving the keys in a car, right, overnight. So these things, you really want to look into those. And if they're in place, that's going to help you know that you're making the right choice. Your MSP should be able to talk to you about these things. It should be able to give you answers at the ready. If they don't have them at the ready, that can maybe speak to the fact that they don't necessarily have a security first mentality. Just on here. So look under the hood. How does ProServeIT, and in saying all this and bringing up how important it is to talk about tooling, how do we do this stuff so you can do your thing? The tools that are involved there, one of our biggest companies that we work with and we use their tooling set is a company called Kaseya. So the one Kaseya product that we use for all of our remote command control activities, patching servers, AV management, is VSA by Kaseya. VSA stands for Virtual Systems Administrator. And that is an incredibly large package. It's very, very complex due to the nature of what it does. But it's one of the oldest, most well-established players in this industry that provides and sells this tool. We even pay for priority support for them. So if we do need help with their products, something's going wrong, we get front of the line access and automatically get that escalated, moved up. Because again, this tool is so important, not just to us, but to you, that we want to make sure if something does happen with it, we can get support for that as soon as possible. They also have a very large team. Again, Kaseya has been in this industry. They were one of the original players in this type of tooling. So they're a very large, well-established business. They're headquartered out of the United States. They do have 24/7/365 support operations, as well as 24/5, I guess you could say, account administration. It's pretty hard to get to some billing issues over the weekend, but pretty much any other time of the day, we can get access to them no matter what we need from their company. Another product that is now owned by Kaseya, but when we actually invested in it, was IT Glue. IT Glue started out about 5 or 6 years ago, and it is just a pure IT documentation platform that's designed to be multi-tenant. It synchronizes with tools like Kaseya and ConnectWise. So it was already designed and built to play with the large industry players in the managed services space. Very secure, highly encrypt all of your data, both at rest and as we're coming over the pipe to access it when that pipe is HTTPS secured. So it's also encrypted. It's where we store our passwords. It's where we document all of your environments, and we do it in a tool like IT Glue because it's designed specifically to do that and helps you to create symbolic links. Part of the demo today is I'll give everybody a look at IT Glue just so you can see what that looks like and learn a little bit more about it. Another tool that we use and that we offer is part of the IT Glue suite. It's called MyGlue. That's where we can create a portal for you, the company, the end user, the IT stakeholder, where you have access and you can see the exact same data that we do in the same way and see that same benefit. So unlike more traditional approaches to documenting environments where you might generate a lot of Excel and Word files, Visio files, things like that, they're kind of locked away and they're a little bit scattered. So it's hard for you if you ever want to check in and see, well, hey, how is my environment being documented and what does that look like? It can be very hard to sort through and bring any sort of articulation of those files. With MyGlue and you being able to see the same way that we do, you also get the same benefit of seeing how everything's interconnected together. And okay, I want to learn more about my accounting app. From within that accounting app, you'd be able to see what server it's on. You'd be able to see, what office that server is located in. And if you wanted to, and you were at a certain level of permissioning, you could even see the passwords associated with logging into that server and as well as that software suite. The other tooling here that we're very, very eager to talk about and show everybody about, you'll see a little bit of it today, is our Smileback system. That's how we collect the feedback from your team about the work that we're doing. That's how we turn it into a much more consumable data metric. And we've baked it into and made it a part of everyone's monthly performance review as well as their year end. So it's how we take that customer feedback and actually turn it into data points that we can now action and talk about and review with you, the client. ConnectWise is our ticketing portal. Again, an incredibly critical piece of any organization, any MSP, I should say, is their ticketing portal. How are you tracking the work that you do? How auditable is that work? How does this allow not only you, the customer, if you want to know about an issue that happened 6 months ago, be able to get that data and get that complete story, but even for us internally, if we want to go back and reference work that's being done, how can we see that work and understand, well, hey, Jim resolved the same issue a month ago, let's go see what he did. So ConnectWise is our ticketing system. Again, same thing. It was selected much the same as Kaseya. We've been using it for years because it's one of the oldest products that do this. It at one time was kind of the dominant force in ticketing systems and ticket management within the MSP space. They do have some competitors now, but ConnectWise is still the largest at what they do here. Very, very well built company, very, very refined. Great support structure, 24/7. Patched regularly, so if there is any security concerns, we can make sure that we can stay on top of those patches and their dev team is addressing those concerns as soon as possible. The other three tools here are fairly new for the work that we do. In the Azure world, and as things are becoming way more cloud-based, clients are becoming way more cloud-based primarily, we're starting to utilize more and more tools like Azure DevOps, as well as the Microsoft Power Apps suite. Azure DevOps is where we're ultimately starting to build out and utilize more of our scripting and automation tooling and integrate that in and having it actually interface with Azure environments, take automatic remediation effects based off of certain variables. So, maybe a server goes offline. Azure DevOps, we can build scripting in there to actually detect this within the Azure world and start to take some remediation efforts, check some other stuff. Same thing if costing is a problem, maybe one of your Azure servers seems to be, very, very costly. We can use Azure DevOps to help, script some solutions to do some automatic startup shutdown to help save that cost. Microsoft Power Apps is another avenue where if customers have the right technology in place, currently where we're using it is as another intake channel. But given what Microsoft Power Apps is, it's a framework to allow you to rapidly create an application, where historically, if you wanted to create any sort of custom application, you had to have a big dev team. There was a lot of work effort involved there, a lot of money and time spent to develop your own custom applications. With Microsoft Power Apps, if you're on the Office 365 suite, depending on your license, you'd already have availability to it, so you can roll it out to all of your users. And within Microsoft Power Apps, you can start to interface with not just Microsoft Stack technologies, but an increasing number of technologies. And from there, you can start to build customized solutions. We use it as an intake channel, help drive some automation and process automation at a couple of clients that we're working for. And it's certainly something that we're looking to use and do more with as part of how we do the stuff. Microsoft Power BI, that's our reporting engine. That's where we go to build visualizations and collect data from all of these different systems, aggregate it, and present it in a way that's much more consumable. It's a very powerful tool, and it creates some really cool visualizations. Again, I'll be showing everybody a little bit more of what we're actually doing with Microsoft Power BI and how that's going to help you, the end user. So now we will roll into our live demo portion. Steph, just let me know if you can see my screen there.
We can indeed.
Wonderful. So this is IT Glue. I've already pre-logged in ahead of time, so I can't show it, but what I can promise you is that the login for this is also MFA, so it's multi-factor authentication. So in addition to me logging in with the username and password, I then also have to use an authenticator app on my cell phone to access this system. That's something that's important to know about, because again, when we think about an IT documentation system, everything that's locked away in here, if someone were to breach this to be able to get access to it, they have the keys to the kingdom. And that should be a concern for all IT documentation systems or wherever your documentation and passwords for your environment are living with an MSP. So for us, we make sure that it's locked behind MFA. So if anybody did try and breach it, they'd actually have to have my cell phone and my authenticator app, and well, at that point, that's probably a difficult thing to defend against. So, so we have our MFA here. And what this is with IT Glue is this is the first page that you're met with. From here, we can actually identify some important contacts, like this David Mulligan fellow. That's why he's in here twice. He's quite important to the Acme and Incorporated company. You can see any documents that were recently updated, and that's just nice for if a team, and especially if it's a client that you're working with all of the time, you can keep yourself current on any changes to any of the documentation. Locations, just to give you some quick access to information, I think about my on-site team. If they wanted to know an address, they can log into their IT Glue and quickly get that address or phone number, on-site contact person, things like that. Upcoming expirations, there's none here, but let's just say you did have an SSL cert or a domain or a warranty for a laptop or server that was going to be expiring. It puts it right here in front of everybody when they first log in. Popular passwords is just what it is. You can add passwords here if you want to. It would just be for quick access, really, when I think about popular passwords. Tickets is where we can pull in tickets, all tickets that have been created for a company. You can then also start to attach them to a how-to guide if your team wanted to go back and reference. It can also help show if something is problematic and you're tracking when it's problematic. Let's just say it's been identified that a switch in your organization, it was faulty, we brought it back online, but this is maybe not the first time it's happened. We want to track to see how often it's happening. You're going to start to attach the tickets that come in to ConnectWise that then also synchronize to IT Glue to that switch. So then it's very easy to pull up the data about the switch and see, hey, oh wow, it's generating a lot of tickets. Locations is pretty self-explanatory. Same thing with contacts. Contacts is just your staff. It's everybody in your organization. Your email address is your phone numbers. So we obviously want to populate that in here, because when you start to look at things like the configuration tabs, configurations represent any physical asset in your environment. This is also part of our asset tracking. With asset tracking, we do utilize our 3 primary systems of IT Glue, Kaseya, as well as ConnectWise. Kaseya is great for documenting things that are have an agent on them, a server, a workstation. ConnectWise is great for documenting those same physical assets as well as software assets that don't have an agent on them. Then they all synchronize and come into IT Glue, which is where we reference them. When we're in IT Glue, this is where you start to see how things can stick together. Not just do you see the location that this server is located in, but you also see the primary contact with it. Now, 9 out of 10 times, this primary contact is just the key IT stakeholder in a business, but it can change. We've seen it largely with companies that have, production and then development environments. The contact person for those 2 environments is often quite different. Even when you get into some of the more complex developer environments, you can have different contact people for different chunks of that environment. So it helps us document that. As you can see, it has all the different necessary details that anybody would actually need to reference this, and has synchronized over from ConnectWise. So all of this data was already put into ConnectWise. It's synchronized over to IT Glue. So now it's located in one single pane and one single system. As you can see here, this is really the key, and one of the greatest benefits about IT Glue is how it does really start to link things together. It's where they got their name, IT Glue, because it sticks everything together. We can see that the application that's installed on this server, one of the applications, is actually Sage 300. Sage 300, the application champion internally is, I guess, Calvin. So maybe he's the head accountant or the CFO, given that it is Sage. Does tell you back, even part of the servers that are linked into this. So this SQL box is obviously where the database for Sage is located, and Sage is actually deployed, as we saw, on DC02. You can see the vendor here, which would take you to the vendor page for Sage, which is actually going to give you, your account number, the vendor name, who that account manager is. You can see the licensing information. Maybe you have to redeploy it or install it on someone's machine. See the license key, when it needs to be renewed, and the cost of that renewal. All of that data is right at our fingertips. And another big thing, which is nice, we can attach all of our how-to guides. I can say in the past, again, before we had IT Glue and invested in this tooling, how-to guides are kind of spread all over the place. They might be saved and attached to a ticket in ConnectWise. They might be in SharePoint. They might actually just be living on the person's laptop that wrote the how-to guide. They forgot to send it out to the team. Well, now all those documents and all those how-to guides live in IT Glue. So as we're building out and documenting something like Sage, well, if you did need to reinstall Sage, you'd have access to your licensing information for it, and you'd also have access to this how-to guide on how you'd go through and actually install the product. So that is a little bit about IT Glue. It's quite a large product. There certainly is a lot more. Another thing that we like that makes it an incredibly useful product for our style of business, being an MSP, is these assets under apps and services are what's called flexible assets. So even if your environment had something that made you really unique, that warranted its own tab here, you could add that in and add how you want to document it. So that's where you can really get into customizing it for different environments. Again, that idea of be like Gumby. Even our tooling that we look for, we need it to be flexible and we need it to stretch. We need it to be able to adapt and do multiple things to meet the requirements of the many different types of businesses that we support work. So the next one, wanted to give everybody just a quick idea of what ConnectWise looks like. I can't show you ConnectWise live simply because it would be far too easy to breach any client data. But just some images here to give you a visual of what it looks like. So this would be our ticket queue, and if a ticket came in, we'd see all this data, the ticket number, the priority that it came in as, the age. Obviously, any ticket that's sitting there too long, we want to make sure that those get noticed. So it's right there on the front page when you're looking at the queue. The status that it's in, so we know if a ticket is new, maybe it hasn't been picked up yet, in progress, assigned, or completed, and as well as the company that it's coming under, and the summary description. So the summary description is really important from the perspective that this is something that can make things really easy to search for. So the team has always been asked to reformat them like this. After they've touched a ticket, ask some probing questions and understand what's going on, implement the user's first name, part of their last name, as well as just, in the tech's own words, what the actual problem is to help us track it down. But this summary description is actually generated either by someone taking in that request over the telephone verbally, or if you email us at help@proserveit.com, the subject line of your email becomes this summary description. Once we have the ticket open, definitely some critical information what we like about ConnectWise that allows us to be a lot more accurate and quicker in how we provide support for an issue. It puts your ticket number right up there, very easy to see. All of the company data and user data. It automatically knows the company that you work for when you email us, your name, and from there it attaches to your phone number, your email address, so we even email you from the ticket. If you have multiple phone numbers, that's just linking to your contact information. So at the time that someone gave us that contact, if they said this is my desk phone and this is my cell phone, we would be able to access all of those cell phone numbers from right here. We're able to see which office the person works at, again, based off of their contact record. And then this area here is something that over the last year, we've really started to utilize heavy from the type and subtype perspective. The reason why we view that it's very important to track these things and why I did want to show everybody is by tracking the type and subtype, it eventually allows us to have those deeper conversations for you about your staff and your business. We not only want to be able to come back and say, hey, you need to invest in training, but hey, you should be looking at investing in training and this is why. Over the last 8-month period since Office 365 got installed, we've seen the number of tickets from users that are, either having problems or need how-to requests. They've gone up by this amount, and here's all the tickets, and let's talk about them and have a conversation, because in all likelihood, you're going to save a lot more money in efficiency and lost productivity by investing in training to bring your staff's knowledge on that software up to where it needs to be. We also have the ability to support multiple agreements, again, being like Gumby from the sense that, we don't just have one agreement that tries to seek to cover off every single person. We recognize that businesses might have, a service desk agreement with us, and then an ad hoc agreement so they can call us and when they need someone to go on site or do those additional work. And maybe they've chosen to start to join and take advantage of our CSP, which is our cloud's service provider offerings. So your Azure Cloud and Office 365 and support of those are in there. This allows the same team, so you're always talking to the same group of folks, and it really helps eliminate that complexity in accessing support. Allows the service desk team to just, they're educated and taught to select different agreements based off of what makes sense. So that also keeps your invoicing and your billing a little bit cleaner and certainly easier to digest and understand, because you know which agreement, what piece of work is going against. So it also helps you see if you're getting value out of it. Initial description, this is where we track all communications, not just from the person that submitted the ticket, but also the tech that's responding and talking back to the users. We certainly encourage phone first, but anytime that a tech does have to send an email, they would click the email button up here. That would email the email address of the person that opened the ticket, and then you would actually see that email chat as a recursive thread in the initial description. This is another very important feature of ConnectWise that I did want to highlight. And again, I would encourage anybody to find out if the software being used to track tickets has this same functionality, because it is our audit trail, and it actually audits every single click, every single message typed, everything that is done on a ticket is available in the audit trail. And this certainly helps out if you yourself are going through internal audits like Sarbanes-Oxley, SOC 2, things like that, where auditors may want to see change control and how you track changes within your environment, anything like that. This audit trail, it gives them everything that they need. Where it's also handy too is perhaps it's 6 months down the road and we want to reinvestigate to understand why something happened. We can pull up that ticket, and even though a bunch of time has passed, it's giving us dates, times, everything that happened, every click, every time the save button was pressed, any time entry. It's that pretty easy to access, nice running trail of what happened. It allows you to go back in time. This is the time entry. Again, when I think about an MSP, it's how are they tracking their time, because that's often what you're paying for. You're paying for time. That's the nature of the business. So how we track our time, again, it's all built into ConnectWise. It's all built in and attached to the tickets. You want to make sure that you're selecting the correct agreement, so all of your time entries are going against that agreement. We have the ability to go down right to the minute in terms of how we're actually tracking our time, as well as the team is also encouraged to put in detailed notes, because these notes show up when there's something that you, the client, can actually see on your invoice if you would like to. Smiles and pies. This is really how we measure our success. So I was talking about the Smileback system earlier on. Anytime you close a ticket with ProServeIT, you're going to receive this email. And within this email, you have 3 reactions that you can choose from. Depending on the reaction that you select, you don't have to, by the way. You could just delete this email and select none. But if you're willing to give us that feedback and participate in that system, and you click on your reaction, it would open up a web browser and show you this page. It would also give you the option to change your reaction, because perhaps you accidentally clicked on the negative reaction. You really want it to be a positive one. You can change it here. And we ask that you just provide us with a comment about that and kind of why you chose that reaction. Again, it's purely optional. You don't have to. But these comments often provide us some of the greatest points of feedback, and that can even be positive. Someone, we love sharing the positive feedback and comments with our team as part of their monthly coachings. And if they're neutral or negative, this is something that we would absolutely want to feedback and talk to them about, and make sure that we can focus on continually improving and doing better. I will also say too, customer service and showing and proving how important that is at our organization. Anytime that anybody selects a neutral reaction or a negative reaction, that also kicks off a phone call from a member of our executive team. So even if there's a comment, that executive always wants to check in and just make sure, hey, do you need that ticket reopened? Is your issue fixed? Because we want to get that fixed for you. And B, do you have some time to talk to us about how we can improve, so we can feed that information back through the management team and then to the actual tech that helped you out. This is how we track it, and this is where I talked about how Smileback is actually a system that collects that and then turns it into data that we can then relay and talk about with folks. So as you can see, Acme, we're crushing it. This David Mulligan guy has done a fantastic job. They were very, very happy, and that's why their net CSAT score is 100%. So net CSAT is a measurement of, obviously, you're positive, you're neutral, and you're negative, and then it aggregates it and gives you that score. We like to see all of our clients at a net CSAT score above 90%. Same thing with the response rate. We like to see a 40% response rate, because that's giving you a healthy amount of feedback. Anything beyond 40% is absolutely amazing. Anything below 40%, that's where we start to talk to the team and make sure they're educating people about the feedback system, as well as engaging with you, the IT stakeholder, to make sure that the folks in your business are aware of this, and how much we at ProServeIT actually value that feedback, and how it can either help take their IT support to the next level, or improve on any points that your staff feels need to be improved on. And this is the pie charts, as you can see. That's where the pie is coming from. This is our Power BI driven VCIO dashboard. So the VCIO dashboard is something that our VCIOs review with clients. Depending on the client and their requirements, it tends to be either monthly or quarterly. And this is a blending of a couple of different data points. So the very first thing that we pop on there is your number of servers and workstations, as well as the patch level for those, and AV level. Obviously, if you have 36 servers, you want to see 36 AV agents installed. And same thing with the patching level, even if that's low, and you can see here it is a little bit low. Ideal is 4,850 patches total. We're only showing 4,815 deployed. That represents a flag to go and see why. Why aren't our servers being patched? Maybe they just need a reboot to complete the install, or maybe one was delayed because you had a project going on, something like that. But again, it's a great flag to start that discussion, because these two things are incredibly critical. Going back to that security focus, you need to have AV. Although AV isn't the do-all to end-all in protecting against threats, it's certainly a helmet in a war zone. It's helping with a very critical piece of the protection there. Same thing with patching. Again, most attacks are born from and successful because of unpatched systems. Vendors aren't perfect. They're like the rest of us. There's absolutely gaps and holes that develop in their operating systems and servers. So we want to make sure that when they're releasing patches to address those things, whether it be a critical patch or a security related patch, that they're getting installed in a timely manner to help keep your environment safe. The next one talks about your uptime. Ideally, what we like to see is 3 nines of uptime in an environment. So Acme is not doing great, but again, that acts as a flag. Well, why was my uptime a little bit lower this month from previous months? We could talk through it. Same thing with the disk usage. It is literally one of the most common reasons for a server shutdown is they run out of hard disk space. In many ways, it's actually more common than blue screening in today's environment with how stable as Windows has become. Because if you're not keeping an eye on your disk usage, it's something that can get consumed very, very quickly. And if it does, the byproduct is either your systems start running unusably slow, or your server actually shuts down, which as you can imagine is much worse. Next thing we like to show is that OS breakdown. That helps us basically make sure that you're current. As you can see, Acme's got 6 Windows 7 machines in the environment. That should be kicking off a conversation of how do we get everybody to Windows 10.
So Dave, like with regard to these kind of graphics and these kind of reporting systems, like this is something that you would want to look for in a managed services provider, that they're going to provide this kind of feedback and data to you. Is that correct?
100%. For me, this, Stephanie, is a piece that does speak to how we measure success. Because if an IT company comes back and tells you that their measure of success are KPIs and metrics, I would really want to see that they can actually show that to me in a way that's consumable. That isn't just, we've all kind of seen them where there are those spreadsheet reports that are full of, a lot of numbers that oftentimes at a quick glance aren't easy to digest and allowing you to get to those quicker, better conversations. When I think about, key IT stakeholders and businesses or executives, they're not hardcore IT people. Otherwise, they often wouldn't be executives, right? What they want to see is they want to be able to see some really good, quick to digest, relevant information that allows you to get to those important conversations about their IT environment to understand the health of it. Even this one with the P1s, this allows you to have a conversation with your IT team about, well, great guys, you're responding to most of my P1s in a very, very timely manner. But what happened in November there where you had, a few that you didn't respond to for over 4 hours? As an executive, it would allow you to see that and be able to get to that conversation. There's probably going to be some really good, healthy reasons. And if there isn't some healthy reasons, well, I think that's going to kick off its own set of conversations, right?
For sure, for sure.
That can even scale too. Same thing, that idea to your service desk. You do want to keep track of how things are being quickly responded to. You don't want to, again, obviously November was a bad month for Acme Inc. because, delayed on some P1s, even delayed on some support requests. So it's certainly a good flag to figure out what's going on there because, you can see that there's actually a trend of really solid work, Although we're getting a lot of requests, most of them for Acme are going to be responded to in less than an hour. That's fantastic. That's a really responsive, experience. That coupled with your Smileback feedback, if that's really positive, it's pretty safe to say, well, it sounds like your user base is overall going to be pretty satisfied with the level of service that they're receiving. That's why even after those SLAs times, we circle back and on the VCI reports, we start to show you that same aggregated data from Smileback. And a couple of different graphs here. It even shows you, maybe you're getting 100% net CSAT in a month, but if you only have 1 or 2 reactions, that's probably why it's so high. So even being able to just see that reaction count and then comparing it to the net CSAT score, it gives you a better idea of actually that true metric and that true measurement of the experience that your staff is going through. Obviously, Azure costs, we like to put that up in front of folks, anybody that is in the Azure cloud, making sure that you are well aware of your costs and how they're fluctuating and moving. Ultimately, you want to see a graph that's looking like this, where it's a bit more stable and not really moving around a lot. The final one, we throw it up there because, again, it's that complete package and looking at the health of your environment and getting to those good conversations with folks is your backup success rate, and being able to provide you with that visual. Again, backups are very, very complex. A lot of data there. There's retention time, selections list, and jobs, because maybe your SQL environment actually has 6 backup jobs, and it can be hard to understand why it's all broken up that way. And and left you with that feeling of just wondering like, well, am I actually safe? We want to show that to our clients and show them, well, hey, here's the data from our backup system that's showing that it's safe, it's green. Your backups are 99.54% successful. We could talk about, what the gap is and why it's not 100%. Again, it gets to those good quality conversations about your IT environment. So that's all that I had for demo.
Awesome.
I think I'll be handing it back to you, Steph, to just kind of close things out before we get into the question and answer period.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much for that, Dave. That was a lot of great content there. So just before we get into the Q&A session, we just wanted to remind you that this is the second webinar in our 4-part Managed Services Journey webinar series. So we do have 2 more webinars coming up. And please note, if you are interested in signing up for those additional webinars, we will be sending the links in our follow-up email to you that you'll receive in a few days. And you can use these links to sign up for the next 2 that are coming. On October 15th, our 3rd webinar, Dave and I will be actually talking about how your IT departments can understand the integration between managed services capabilities and, our managed services capabilities and your IT department. In our 4th webinar there on October 29th, I'll actually be joined by a few new voices who will be talking about some of the next steps after you've signed your managed services agreement. So for instance, the ongoing continuous managed services support, understanding those monthly and quarterly managed services reporting that Dave just went over, and more details around that. So again, those links for those webinars will be sent to you in the follow-up email that we'll be providing, and each webinar will be held at our usual time of 2 p.m. As well. So let's talk about quickly some next steps here. And Dave, if you could advance 2 slides for me. Perfect. So we've talked this is really brief. We've talked a lot today about some of the things to consider when it comes to selecting that managed services partner, but nothing is really as good as having kind of a more customized chat for your specific environment and your specific organization, so that you can really determine whether or not managed services is right for your organizational needs. And for those of you on the line right now, you can actually take advantage of this. We have a free 1-hour consultation to see if ProServeIT's managed services can help augment your IT department and be that sort of extra set of hands, if you will, or things like that. So as Dave mentioned in our webinar today, there are several advantages to choosing a managed services solution for your organization. You get proactive monitoring of your environment, you get security management, you get helping, we'll help you resolve any of your technical incidents that may arise, acting as that resource for any of your end user questions or concerns as well. So, if you are considering managed services or interested in the consultation, interested in learning more, as well as more than what this webinar already provided you, you can email us at cloud@proserveit.com and we'll get started with you, and we'll have that conversation. So going into the Q&A session, we're gonna just give it a minute or 2 here on the line just to see if there are any questions coming in. Again, use that questions tab so that we can, I see one actually just came in here. So Tony's asking, Dave, you mentioned Kaseya and IT Glue. Why are these tools considered best in class, and why is that important to look out for?
Yeah, so for Kaseya and ConnectWise and IT Glue, why we consider them to be best in class is, again, how long they've been in business for, the availability of their support teams, because some of the the newer products that are still smaller as their businesses are growing, their actual support for their product is maybe it's only 9 to 5 Pacific Standard Time. So we look for we look for vendors when we think about what is top tier, what is best in class, that their support structure for their products are also 24/7/365 to match the needs of our business and our customers. That's why we consider them best in breed. Also, again, they've been around for the longest. Just researching them and reviewing them, seeing what other folks have to say. It can even go as far as to checking something like Reddit. Now, you have to take a lot of that with a grain of salt. But again, if you look at Reddit and the thread for these products is just lit up with people that use them, that have all these negative things to say and all these problems, that can certainly be a strong indicator of the tooling that you're getting into, or even the tooling that your MSP provider that you're potentially looking at is getting into and involved with.
Awesome. Okay. All right, so I'm not seeing any other questions coming in at this time, and I'm just cognizant of the time here as well. I think if you do have any other questions at this that you want to ask, please feel free to email us at cloud@proserveit.com. It's down at the bottom of the screen there, and we will be more than happy to answer those questions as they come up. Oh wait, we did get one more, just snuck right in there at the very end. Somebody, Howie's asking, we are looking to implement an ERP system on Microsoft's Embed program. Would an MSP with ProServe cover MS Cloud environments?
Yes, absolutely. We consider ourselves cloud experts, actually. So 100% an MSP contract with us would for sure be able to help you out with that. What I'd
Perfect.
actually recommend, Howie, is that we connect you with a member of our sales team so they can start to have a better conversation with you about that so you can learn how ProServeIT can help you.
Awesome. And Howie, what we can do is if you want to reach out to cloud@proserveit.com with that question, we'll make sure that one of our team gets back to you as soon as possible so that we can start that conversation for you. So I think that's going to do it for us here today. On behalf of Dave and I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope that you got some more information about the managed services journey in terms of what to look for in your managed services provider, and that you learned a little bit more about how kind of ProServeIT differentiates ourselves from some competitors that we do have out there. Again, if you did have anything that you wanted to follow up with, or any questions or concerns or interests, that email there, cloud@proserveit.com, is definitely the best way to get a hold of us, and we'll be happy to answer anything that comes in. So, hoping that we'll see you at our future webinars, perhaps even the one on October 15th. But until that time, I'm going to say thanks so much for joining us again, and we hope that you have a great day. So we'll talk to y'all later.